All right. Hello, everybody. I'm with you with Graham, and she's my special guest speaker today. So if you guys were wondering,
well, hello there.
So we're going to talk about just a little kind of just starter steps on just gardening. So if you've never started gardening and you kind of want to get into it, if you want to do indoor, outdoor, we're just going to give you a few just nuggets, starter steps to kind of get going, and then just to kind of get you on your way. And then throughout, the week and next week, I'll be posting some other things, just nuggets to kind of other fun little gardening nuggets. And I usually always call my grandma up if I need any wisdom in the garden, like, what's going on here? I need some help here. Or why does this leaf look like this kind of thing? So,
And she'll send me a picture of it. Yeah.
That's right, I do. So if we're starting, so let's start just simply, let's say you don't have a garden outside yet, and you simply just maybe want to start something little inside. Maybe you're in an apartment, you don't have any areas to grow anything outdoors wise. And so if you're in an apartment, Grandma, and you have little space, but you want to grow something, what were maybe some nuggets you can maybe share if they're in an apartment, but their only option to maybe grow inside? What would you tell them?
To grow inside, now if they can't get out into and replant it, you just want it inside, you don't plant cucumbers.
They're a vine.
But,
yes.
Yeah, they're a vine. You probably could plant some radishes, though, and have some early radishes. And
Like this?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I plant seeds on any dirt, you always want to warm your dirt. And I take hot water in my dirt and mix it all up so that your dirt is all warm. And then plant your seeds, whatever you want to plant, just so they're not vines. And even tomatoes, they will sprout faster or germinate faster if your ground is warm. And then cover it with some kind of a plastic that will keep it moist. But then you could even have fresh radishes in the wintertime if you want.
Or what else?
Onion sets, or
what about beans?
Beans. I've never really.
Well, peppers?
You can try peppers or tomatoes.
Okay.
And you can grow, and sometimes they call them patio plants.
Yep. You want to make sure if you're planting either like beans or tomatoes, it'll have something for it to kind of sit on or grow up with to support it as it grows, because obviously those tomatoes are going to get bigger, and same thing with the green beans, they're going to hang there, so they kind of sometimes need a little extra support on the so you can have sticks. There's a lot of different options out there that Menards, Home Depot, even greenhouses have different options. You can kind of look there. So those are options you can grow inside. You want to make sure you have hey Chris, you want to make sure you have obviously good lighting. Okay, you want
good lighting.
You talked about the dirt. Another great thing about the dirt is it actually helps with disease too. Mm-hmm. So that's a really good thing to really benefit your good fruits or veggies that you'll be growing. And then obviously dirt, sunlight, and water. And then you just want to pick up whatever seed of choice you want. Try to stay away from vines. Things are going to grow.
That's right. And if your tomatoes start getting too stalky or too high, just cut the tops off. And that way they'll spread out. And you'll get better tomatoes and bigger. Otherwise, all your nutritions will go into your stalk and not into your tomatoes.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So now that was the indoor portion. So if you don't have, room, start with that. And then even with herbs too. Herbs are, simple enough. Just do the basic thing. Get them some light and water, and they'll sprout out just great.
You can even put those in a smaller pot on a windowsill if you want.
Oh yeah.
The herbs.
Yep, and that will work great too. I actually last year I actually grew quite a few herbs last year, and this thing that I started, I froze some and I dried some because I wanted to taste the difference out of them. So you have a couple options there, and we can go into that a little bit more later in a different time. So, but and then now moving to the outdoors. So when we're planning for the outdoors, we have a little spot we want to grow, okay? And
now,
we're
are
excited.
you in the ground or do you have a raised garden?
Let's start with raised garden.
A raised garden.
So we have a raised garden. You have a raised garden, and you're wanting to grow for the first time. Your mind's racing because you're excited. Grandma, where do we start?
Well, I never had a raised garden, but I imagine it'd be about the same. First of all, you have to get your soil and your ground ready. And of course, I had a huge garden, which I tilled it so that it would get real fine. And and I'm sure you're going to have to work your raised garden too. And that's the first. But now, I never fertilized mine because it was in the ground, and the only fertilizer I had, which would probably run off the cow yard.
That's right. That's the best kind.
Which was very, very good for my plants. So I would plant a lot of things right outside, or my seeds. When it gets 40 degrees, then it's time to start planting. First things I would plant is my potatoes, and your cold weather, your lettuce and your radishes and your onion sets. Those are all cold.
When you say cold, like what kind of temperature?
40 degrees.
40 degrees?
Just about 40 degrees with your ground.
So it starts to loosen up?
Yep. Okay. It's all loosened up by 40 degrees.
Now, before then, would you want to till it at all?
Oh, yeah. That's how you work it all up.
Okay. If you don't have a tiller, get a shovel, get a hoe, or get something. At least dig it up and mix it around. Would you do that?
Well, if it was that small, I'd use my hands even,
Okay, yeah.
I use my hands. I had to feel. I couldn't wear gloves, but that's not for everybody,
Yeah.
And of course, at that time, I never had a fingernail either. But I don't know. You till it all up, and you just plant it and see what you get. But now your tomatoes is another thing. You plant them later on when it gets warmer. But when I planted my tomatoes, I always would get a smaller and not a huge one that was blooming, because they go into shock. And keep as much dirt around the roots as you can, and take the bottom 2 leaves off and sink it in the ground deep. Then you take milk carton, cut the bottom out, and set it over. It's a portable greenhouse.
Yeah.
And
would you start from seed, or would you?
No, I never started from seed with my tomatoes.
Tomatoes, you always bought your tomatoes?
I always bought my tomatoes.
And why?
Why? Because when I started them with seed, I'd always start them the last part of February or first part of March. They get too stimmy.
Oh, okay.
And
that's where you said you want to break off the top so they bushel out.
Yeah, so then they bush out.
Got it.
Even in the garden.
Got it.
And because all your nutritions,
Yeah.
and you want it in the root.
Right. So that's what I'll be doing. So I'll be planting my seeds with my tomatoes in-house at the end or at the beginning of February to kind of get them going, and then I'll transplant them at least just once. Your thought was you want to minimize transplanting as much as possible, right?
That's right. I didn't, at that time I didn't have my flower house, and I had really no place to start them, but that was so full of flowers that I couldn't possibly have room for vegetables.
Right. So anyway, if you can, get them in the dirt that you want right away, or as soon as you can. If you can't, then maybe like you can do what I do is just start them indoors And if you only have to transplant them once, then that's it. Otherwise, you know, the thing about gardening is all about trial and error. You're not going to be a pro.
Right.
You're not going to be a pro right away.
And I will say, protect the rooting system when you're replanting or planting, because it's so easy for them to go into shock, and it takes forever to have them come out of that.
Right. So just be patient. So when you're transplanting, just be patient with those and kind of give them some love and water and do what they need.
Keep a lot of dirt around them when you're transplanting them. Keep a lot of dirt.
That they come with, right?
Yeah, that they come with.
That they come with.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then
put a little water down in the bottom there too, so the roots are moist.
Oh, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Nice job. Okay. And then we say not a raised bed garden, just a regular garden. People are wanting to start.
They're pretty much the same.
Same thing?
Pretty much the same, except you're putting them in the ground, and you have to get down on your knees or bend over more. But
get a knee pad. That helps.
Yeah. I tell you one thing. When I planted my tomatoes, you always put a row of marigolds beside it to keep the bugs away. And when I planted my broccoli or cauliflower, I always would plant a row of zinnias, because the butterflies like them, and they are good to
pollinate.
To what?
Pollinate.
Pollinate, yeah.
Yeah.
Pollinate.
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 Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, and that always, and besides, it makes your garden pretty too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I need to do. I'm gonna try to plant zinnias. You said next to, what did you say the next to?
Cauliflower and broccoli.
Oh, no wonder why maybe my broccoli and cauliflower didn't turn out.
Well, they have to, and so get them in earlier though too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I live by a bunch of Amish, so I use Amish manure. So I take my 5-gallon bucket and I go over and I just like, hey, can I get some manure? And they look at me like, sure. So it's kind of funny, but they know exactly. But it's good. It's fresh. It's, it's right there. It's natural,
The best thing for rhubarb you ever did see.
Right. Except for some reason, my rhubarb did not turn out.
I had a tough time, but my mother could grow the best rhubarb, and she would always put take her hoe and put a trench around the plant and put manure around that, cover it up, and oh my goodness, we had pie.
The biggest.
Yeah, we had pie.
So, well, thanks for joining us today, guys. That is all that we have for a little Garden 101 Coffee Talk with Graham. And so maybe we'll be back again when, the flowers are coming out a little bit, to give us some extra tips and see how we're doing out there. Maybe any extra questions that have come up and sprouted out. So, but thanks for being with us today. And I hope you guys have an awesome day. And let me know if you have any questions or anything. Just post them down below and we'll get your questions answered, okay? Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.
Good to see you.